My name is Elias Vance. I'm 53 years old. And on a Wednesday evening, December 21st, the winter solstice, while I was checking the pressure gauge on my kiln, I died. There was no big dramatic crash, no flashing lights. One moment, I was standing in the humid warmth of my studio, the low, powerful hum of the kiln a familiar song in my ears, thinking about the upcoming holiday craft fair I had to prepare for. The next, a sudden blinding white-hot spike of pressure went off right behind my breastbone and then up into my jaw. It was sharp and fast, like the snap of a high-tension wire. The world didn't just tilt, it cracked. The air rushed out of my lungs in a single, painful whoosh. The smell of clay and glaze, my whole life's aroma, vanished. The roar of the blood in my ears quickly turned to a flat, silent void. And then, everything went a deep, profound black, softer than any night. Before that moment, my life was precisely, comfortably, predictably ordered. I live in Gunnison, Colorado, a small mountain town where the sky is impossibly blue and the snow piles up to your waist. My partner Clara and I have been together for 18 years. We have one child, our daughter Maya, who is an artist herself, studying ceramics at a school on the West Coast. I made my living as a potter, creating functional, beautiful stoneware that people used in their daily lives. I loved my work. I loved the way a lump of raw earth could be shaped by my hands, pulled into something delicate and enduring. My life was a steady rhythm. Mix the new batch of clay, repair the warped shelf in the studio, find a new glaze recipe for the spring line, call Maya every Sunday no matter what. My relationship with the divine was a quiet, practical one, tied to the elements of my craft: earth, water, air, and fire. I respected the great, unknowable forces of the universe. I believed in a vast, intelligent design, a cosmic architect, but the idea of a personal, hands-on God felt like a comforting fable for other people. I never knelt, never prayed with my voice. I simply tried to live a good, honest life, to pay my suppliers on time, and to leave the world with more beauty than I found in it. I was a regular person trying to be an ethical man, a good partner, and an encouraging father. I never thought something so utterly outside the boundaries of logic and physics could happen to me. I thought those stories of lights and tunnels were the byproducts of oxygen deprivation. But it happened. One moment I was standing by my kiln, and the next I wasn't. The crushing pain in my chest was gone. The heavy, earthly weight of my body had lifted. I felt vast and airy. I was floating like a bit of ash caught on an updraft. I looked down. Below me was the sight that made no sense but carried no alarm. I saw my small, cluttered studio. I saw the bags of dry clay stacked against the wall, the tools scattered on my workbench, the shelf of cooling mugs, and I saw myself. I was on the cement floor, lying awkwardly, my hand stretched out, reaching for the silver knob of the kiln controller. The contrast between my vibrant, weightless self and the pale, still form below was stark. It was impossibly strange. There was no terror, only a cool, detached curiosity. It was like watching a documentary about an unfortunate man I once knew. Then I heard it. A sharp, choked gasp. Clara burst through the double doors, her face a mask of snow and panic. She knelt, her gloved hands reaching for my still form. Elias, what is it? No, she pleaded, her voice a raw sound of sheer desperation. I could see the frantic, beautiful fear for me in her eyes. I wanted to tell her, "It's fine, my love, I'm right here. Don't worry about the clay, I'll mix it tomorrow." But I had no mouth to form the words. I was just there, an invisible witness, watching the most devastating scene of her life unfold. Then I felt the pull. It was not a violent wrenching, but an unbelievably sweet, resonant tone, like the ringing of a crystal bowl. It was pulling not from the floor, but from somewhere above and behind the studio's ceiling. The earthy smells of the studio started to dissolve. The colors of the glaze bottles faded, and the sound of Clara's muffled sobs grew distant, as if a master potter was slowly, deliberately turning down the entire world on the wheel of existence. I wasn't scared. It felt like the ultimate homecoming. I found myself in a place without boundaries. There was no up or down, no sun or moon, no heat or cold. It wasn't dark, but rather an eternal twilight of deep indigo blue. It was simply peaceful, A silence so complete, so full of unspoken understanding, that it made the silence of the Colorado mountains seem noisy. It was a silence filled with grace. I felt like I could finally let go of every burden I had ever carried. The crushing debt on the new kiln, the gnawing worry that I wasn't an inspiring enough father to Maya, the doubt over whether I was good enough for Clara. It all evaporated. It didn't matter. Then, in the endless blue, I saw a light. It began as a minuscule spark, the first star of a winter evening, but it expanded, moving toward me with deliberate speed. As it grew, it brought with it a profound, essential warmth that was more than just temperature. It was the warmth of belonging. It enveloped me like the sensation of standing next to a perfectly fired kiln on a freezing day. Safe, understood, and wholly loved. I moved toward it, or perhaps it moved toward me. The distinction was meaningless. All I knew was that to dwell in that light was the only true purpose I had ever known. As the light approached, I could see that it was not merely an energy source. It was a person, an existence composed entirely of this living, breathing luminescence. It swirled with every color I'd ever struggled to mix in my glazes: gold, sapphire, amber. Only these colors were alive. It was brighter than a forge, but I could look directly into it without pain. He wasn't wearing an ancient tunic. He was simply light and love molded into the form of a man. His presence was ancient, and yet as fresh as new snow. His face, while impossible to define with earthly words, was pure understanding. His eyes held the depth of 1,000 galaxies, and they were looking directly into my soul. In that gaze I was known. Every corner I had tried to hide, every selfish thought, every time I had chosen comfort over courage, it was all visible. And he didn't just see it, he understood it. There was no judgment, only a vast, unconditional love that hit me like the physical force of a tidal wave. I began to weep. It wasn't the bitter tears of guilt, but the overwhelming tears of absolute release, the relief of being truly, finally seen and still being loved. I didn't have to ask who he was. My very essence, my core spirit, recognized him. It was the cosmic potter, the source of all fire and clay. His voice was not a sound in the air. It was a thought that blossomed in the center of my being, clearer than any spoken word. "Welcome, Elias. You are home. Be at peace." His presence felt like the fusion of a deep, resonant cello and the delicate whisper of wind chimes. I felt every fractured piece of my earthly self being reassembled, tempered, and made whole. We simply existed there for a time, letting the pure peace soak into the remnants of my soul. It was a moment that felt like an eon and a second simultaneously. Then he looked at me with an intense tenderness, and I knew the next phase was beginning. A flash of my old, practical fear, the anxiety of a test or a performance review, crossed my mind. I braced myself, but it was not what I expected. He didn't produce a ledger of good and bad deeds. He simply looked into the center of my heart. "I have 3 questions for you, little vessel," he said gently. "They are the same I ask of all who arrive." I remember thinking, this is the true firing. This is the test of the glaze. It wasn't terrifying because he was scary, but because the answers would be the unvarnished truth of my soul, and there would be nowhere left to hide. He leaned in, and the light grew warmer, the indigo blue around us seeming to intensify with his focus. The 3 questions of the soul. Question 1. "Did you let me love you?" He asked the first question, his tone as soft as falling snow. "Tell me, Elias, did you let me love you?" I hesitated, confusion clouding my spiritual understanding. I expected, "Did you love me?" I began to give the earthly answer. "I tried, Lord. I was honest. I respected life. I made beauty for the world. Isn't that a form of worship?" He raised a hand made of swirling, living light, and the gesture silenced my intellectual defense. "That is how you attempted to love me. I am asking, did you let me love you?" And then he showed me. It wasn't a movie. It was a pure, visceral reliving of the emotions. I saw myself in the studio, hunched over a piece that had cracked in the firing. I was furious with myself, consumed by a brutal self-criticism. "You're a hack. You've wasted the clay. You've wasted the fuel, you'll never be good enough. And in that moment, he showed me that he was right there, his love pouring out toward me like a warm, golden glaze. But I was so busy wallowing in my own perceived failure, so focused on the stain of my imperfection, that I had built an internal wall, a dense, spiritual clay dam. I wouldn't let his love in to heal that broken, self-inflicted wound. I didn't feel worthy of grace. He showed me a moment from a few months ago. I had been arguing with Clara, a stupid, petty argument about money. I felt justified, self-righteous, but deep down, ashamed of my own meanness. That shame kept me distant from her for days, and in that same distance I was distant from him. I was trying to earn back a love that was already mine, freely given. Tears sprang into my light eyes. I finally grasped the profound simplicity. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being receptive. No, I whispered. I didn't, not truly. I kept trying to pay for it. His smile was pure, transformative grace. It is the hardest and yet the most effortless thing, my son, he said, to simply be loved, to open the vessel you are. Question 2. Did you see me in the vessels I sent to you? He looked at me again, his gaze deeper and more penetrating. The second question, his voice now more serious, like the deep rumble of an earthquake. Did you see me in the people I sent to you? I wanted to offer the common answer. I was generally kind. I gave to charity. I didn't hurt anyone. He didn't stop me, but he presented the truth behind my words. He showed me a day at the community coffee shop. There was a young barista, a college dropout, who had messed up my complicated order 3 times. I remember my internal sigh of annoyance and superiority. I was polite, but inwardly I judged him as lazy and incompetent. But then, the scene shifted. He let me see what he saw. He showed me a tiny, flickering ember of the divine fire inside that young man's chest. He showed me the man's exhaustion, his fear of failure, the heavy burden of trying to care for his sick mother. And in that moment, I saw the cosmic potter's own face in the tired eyes of the barista. I had completely walked past him. I saw only the mistake, not the soul. He showed me my neighbor, old Mr. Henderson, who always complained about my kiln's exhaust fan and seemed to live only to be a nuisance. I saw how I would avoid him, putting on my headphones if I saw him in the driveway. But then I was shown the truth. Mr. Henderson's profound, aching loneliness after his wife's death. He was simply trying to find any form of connection, even a negative one. He was in that desperate plea for attention, and I had ignored him. He showed me my own partner, Clara, one evening when she was trying to talk to me about her concerns over her aging father. I was only half listening, sketching new handle designs, thinking about the upcoming craft fair deadline. I saw the look of diminishment and profound isolation on her face when she realized I was not there with her. He was in Clara's plea for true connection, and I had missed him in my own home. I saw scene after scene, the rude customer arguing over the price of a mug, the aggressive driver on the snowy road, even the difficult, demanding patrons at the craft fair. In every single person I had deemed difficult, inconvenient, or invisible, he was there, asking to be seen with the eyes of the heart. I began to sob, a sorrowful, crushing cry. I didn't see you, I confessed. I saw their flaws. I saw their burdens. I saw my own judgment. I wasn't looking for the light in the clay. I'm so sorry. His love washed over my sorrow like a powerful but gentle acid, erasing the shame but leaving the truth. My child, he said, the entire universe is an infinite gallery of my hidden faces. Your only work is to look with the eyes of the heart, to honor the divine in the dust. Question 3. What did you do with the wounds I allowed? I took a long spiritual breath, feeling the weight of the last truth settle upon my soul. I looked up at him, ready for the final, most intimate question. His eyes were filled with a profound sorrow, and an even deeper, more challenging love. And the third question, Elias, he whispered, his voice now the soft, sacred sound of a dying fire. What did you do with the wounds I allowed? My wounds. I thought of the scars on my hand from a shard of broken ceramic. I knew that wasn't what he meant. He showed me the deepest wound of my adult life, the failure of my first marriage. It had ended in a painful, bitter divorce when Maya was young. It was a failure that made me feel like a fraud as a man and a husband. I had carried the pain like a heavy granite stone, convinced that it marked me as permanently damaged. I never talked about it. I built a thick, protective wall around that part of my heart so no one, not even Clara, could truly touch it. I thought this was self-preservation. He showed me that dark, heavy stone in my soul. Then, he showed me a colleague from the local arts guild, a talented but reserved woman whose own marriage was starting to crumble. I remember her telling me with a shaky voice that she was scared. I had simply said, "I'm sorry, it's a tough path." I had offered a polite platitude and backed away. I didn't share my own history. I didn't offer her the hard-won wisdom my own failure had taught me. How to navigate shared custody, how to protect a child's heart, or how to finally find peace with the wreckage. He showed me my stone, my wound. Then he showed me that my pain was meant to be a bridge, a tool he had tempered in the fire to cross over into her hurting heart and comfort her in a way no one else could. But I kept it for myself. I guarded my wound instead of letting its lessons become a gift. He showed me the truth. Our deepest pains are not punishments. They are assignments. The loneliness you felt is meant to help you comfort someone else who feels alone. The failure you experienced is meant to give you the humility to lift up someone else who has failed. The grief that broke your heart is the very thing that makes your heart big enough to hold someone else's grief. I saw it clearly. All my life, I had been trying to hide my wounds, fearing they made me weak. He showed me that they were meant to be my greatest strength, the deepest grooves in the vessel of my soul, grooves meant to hold the precious water of compassion. I had no words. For a second, I could only silently weep. I felt a crushing sense of having failed all 3 tests. I hadn't let him love me. I hadn't seen him in others, and I had wasted the transformative power of my own pain. I looked at him, bracing for disappointment, but there was none. There was only a love so vast and wide that it could contain all of my failures, all of my judgments, and still call me a beautiful, worthy piece of the whole. "Elias," he said, pulling me into an embrace of pure, living light. "This is not a judgment, it is an awakening. This is the lesson of the life you lived. It is not about being a perfect vessel. It is about learning to love. Now you know." I desperately wanted to stay there in that perfect, quiet peace. "Please," I pleaded into the light, "don't send me back. I want to stay in your presence. I'm so tired of the struggle." He held me for a moment longer, and it felt like the first true, complete rest I had ever known. "I know, little one, but your work is not finished. Your loved ones need you. They need to see what this love looks like lived out in the clay of the world. You have witnessed it now. Go and be the answer to these questions." I felt the heartbreak of leaving the source, the deepest sorrow of a child being pulled from the mother's arms. He smiled at me, a silent promise in his eyes. "I will be with you." Then I felt that pull again, a powerful spiritual current yanking me backward, away from the light and down into the dense world. The peace began to fade, and the chaotic sounds of the world rushed back in. I gasped. The first sensation was a terrifying, burning pressure in my chest and head. The light was blinding, the harsh, sterile glare of a hospital emergency room lamp. A monitor next to my head was beeping relentlessly. A woman in scrubs shouted, "We've got a pulse, sinus rhythm, he's back." Clara was there, her face tear-streaked and ghostly pale, her head buried in her hands next to the gurney. She shot up when she heard the nurse, her eyes wide with unbelievable shock. She rushed to me and gently touched my cold hand. "Elias, can you hear me?" I tried to speak, but my throat was raw and burned. I could only nod. I was utterly disoriented. One moment I was in the indigo light of the source, and the next I was in this cold, loud, intensely physical room. I began to weep, but these were different tears. They were tears of profound loss for the home I had just left, and tears of overwhelming, agonizing gratitude for the impossible gift of a second chance. The medical team had no explanation. They told Clara I had suffered a massive cardiac arrest, a widowmaker blockage, and had been clinically dead for at least 14 minutes. They had been preparing to notify Maya. They kept saying miracle, unprecedented, and statistically impossible, but I knew exactly what it was. It was an assignment. The Potter's new assignment. It's been a year since the winter solstice. My life on the surface appears the same. I still live in Gunnison, still work in my studio, still battle with warped clay and demanding deadlines. But inside, I am a new vessel. I came back with a message that I now try to integrate into every piece I make, every conversation I have, and every glance I share. It is a message for you. It is the 3 solstice questions the Potter asked me. He wants me to ask you. First, are you letting him love you right now, in this moment? No matter what you've done, no matter how ashamed you feel about your imperfections, his love is the golden healing glaze pouring out for you. Are you going to keep building clay dams of pride and self-criticism? Or are you going to finally open the vessel of your heart and let it in? Second, where is he hiding in the vessels he sent to you? In the face of the person who most annoys or inconveniences you? In the plea for a moment of attention from a loved one you're too busy to see? In the eyes of a stranger you judge on the street? Are you willing to look for the divine fire in the dust and the clay of every person you meet? He is there. I promise you he is there. And last, what about your deepest wound? The pain you hide from everyone, the thing that broke your life in half. Are you going to keep guarding that granite stone of pain? Or are you going to let the Potter use it as a tool, a bridge of compassion and wisdom, to heal someone else in the hurting world? These questions, which seem terrifying in the light, I realize now are not a test. They are a roadmap. A map back to the source of all love, all fire, and all creation. Heaven is real, and the love waiting for you there is more beautiful than the most perfectly fired piece of porcelain you could ever imagine. But you don't have to wait until your own solstice to experience it. He is asking you to live in that love today. He's not waiting to judge you. He is waiting to love you. Please, just let him.